Today's class is on putting up a defense. To me, this is a class that should have been taught um, by a lot of teachers. Only one of them I ever know attacked this. And unfortunately, because of that, I feel like that it's almost as if they don't plan it for you to go to trial. But within a 1 year period, I did 5 trials in a row. Well, within a couple of years. So they do come in spurts. It's worth going to other cities in order to see one. And to be perfectly honest, it's not that they can have them, it's just in a lot of cases the cities drop them. That is, they could have gone to court instead of doing so. Um, they don't bother. They drop it, they do other things. First of all, collecting information. I gave you a card just now that I consider really, really important. Um, Now, a long time ago, I was thrown in, literally was promoted in a city, and they suddenly put me with this guy that is supposed to be training me to do cases and stuff. And what he did instead, what he did was he met with us once a week, and I'm not going to tell you who it was. And this case came up. They had a couple of cases they were investigating. And what he did was he told all of us in the presence, and most of us were new. He said, "Okay, I've got this thing going on, and I want you guys to go and investigate it. Come back and tell me what you found." He didn't hand me any tools, how to do it. If you look in that file I just gave you called Scribe Tools for Investigation, there's a witness statement. There's an investigative record, which I like. It kind of tracks what's going on with the actual investigation. Um, there's an incident report. Almost anything that happens gets an incident report. There's a suspect statement, and one that I consider extremely important is called defense. And the reason I consider that one important, in fact, what I'm going to do is I'll explain that in a minute. But the defense is what you're going to put out before you go to trial. It's what you're going to sit down saying, based on all this stuff, um, here's how I'm going to do it. Here's how I'm going to defend my person. And we'll talk about that. So basically, I just handed you everything this guy did not hand me. And the net result was I came back the next week and I had nothing. And because I didn't know what I was supposed to do, what question I was supposed to ask, I'd never done this before, didn't hand me any forms. And then later on, about a month later, he turned around and criticized me for being lazy because he said I came back and didn't have any information. I really didn't try. And which really was offensive to me because I felt like this guy's, oh, then he also told me that he would train me. Well, he was already supposed to be training me, and he sent me out with no tools. But my point is that that's why I just gave you what I did. I started collecting all this stuff so that people would have the information. Yeah, it's a bad tutor. So that people would have the information that they needed in order to get this done. So that's why you have what you have now. So let's go through this together. Okay, I did put a number, no card one collecting information. So I did number it. So let's go through. All right, collecting the information. You're called to a crime scene. Could be because you're a magistrate, could be for any number of reasons. Clear and secure the scene to preserve evidence. Try to keep the people close to interview for potential witnesses. This becomes problematic. The reason I say that, for instance, in my own city, somebody went to talk to a man that was accused of something, not a big deal, and 14 people gathered around and started talking. So, trying to get people to clear and only talk to the people you need, I would suggest that what you do is find out who did it, what happened. We talked about collecting the transcripts. And another thing we talked about where you take under moderation, that you take the transcripts of what was said. Hopefully they give it to you and you can go through it and sort that out. But at any rate, find out who is the actual witnesses. So basically, find out who the potential witnesses are. Put it on the form I gave you. Okay. I would suggest coming back later because having 14 people there shouting stuff at you doesn't help you get the witnesses. Now, Second Life is obviously not important, but you need to clear people from the media there to preserve the scene and evidence. Kind of a joke in Second Life because nobody can walk off with evidence anyway. People in your scene contaminated. Evidence can get trampled to the ground, hidden underfoot, footprints, sensed left by the looky-loos. This is more real life, but it literally, you need to clear the scene because it makes great role play. People may pick up something that should be safe for evidence. Clearing the scene makes up. You should clear the scene anyway and just get it down. So I would suggest going in, taking, drawing a picture of the scene, find out who saw what, and then probably backtrack because by then, if your city's large enough, like I'm in, you're going to have 15 people standing around shouting stuff and things like that. Find out who knows what. In a smaller city, big deal. If you get five, you're doing good. But in a larger city, it becomes a freaking nightmare. It's also important to keep people close. Anyone may be a suspect or witness. You want to find out who, what they know before they wander off. So make a preliminary outline of who may have seen anything, put it in the notes. Have the gate locked, no one allowed to leave if you have to. Make sure everybody you need to have is at least written down. Next part. Hopefully I numbered all this. I can't stress this enough. If you have a victim and a suspect on the scene, separate them. I went through this on moderation. Um, Usually what ends up happening is they're shouting at you in IMs. And they're both trying to tell you who did what. They don't just do it in vocal, but you end up having two people shouting match. Remember, in moderation, I said your job is to get them back in the role play, and it's not really good having two people screaming at you in your IMs. The victim's going to be less intimidated, more likely to cooperate if he's separated. Also, you also keep away from outbursts if that's not true. No, I didn't. From the suspect interrupting you. Um, Another reason why you want to note the names and then come back. The problem is you've got to turn in, usually in most cities, you're going to turn in a complaint form. You're going to have the people fill out a complaint form, and those are going to go to the warriors or to the to the magistrate who's going to assign them to advocates or what they call litigants. And so you do need to get the initial complaint forms, who did what, hand it to both people, have them start filling it out. Maybe that'll shut them up a bit. And you want those statements before you leave the crime scene. So witnesses get back to later, but these guys, you definitely want those complaint forms because it's going to be turned in, like I said, to the magistrates or the warriors. They're going to then turn around and assign somebody to go after them. Now, if you didn't get the scene right away, many of the people just pass by and join the growing crowd. Normal. Crime scenes can be just exciting, great place for gossip. And if you're even in, you need to separate the past buyers from the witnesses. That holds true in Second Life. You want to find out whatever you can from anyone who saw anything, no matter how inconsequential. You'll sort this crap out later. One little detail that could be important, need to catch up the person that did it. Make a list now. What you want to do, create a folder for the crime. And I didn't put that in this note. Create a folder right away. Open it neck. Make a list of what you saw, who you spoke with, what they did, any evidences, potential witnesses, potential suspects, everything, even if it doesn't seem important. Because you're going to have the advocates go back and start going through the crime scene anyway. Now, that means, number one, you're going to open up a folder. You're going to take those tools for investigation I gave to you and start filling them out. Have both of the people fill out complaint forms, and the witnesses are going to take down their names and you'll backtrack. Guy told you, I'm going to get rid of that. Like I said, I've only shown this to one other person imperfectly. A guy told you he's in the tavern, just happened to buy the crowd to watch. What about the woman that says she saw the same man lurking around the side of the building? So all that stuff becomes important. Write it down, cross-reference in your statements. That is, take both cards from both of the people who had something happen. And then once you get the witness statements, sit down and start looking at the different statements, see if there's a pattern, see if they connect in any way. Magistrate Lasseter came across a crime taking place, became an important witness later on. Aurora's validating an inn, assaulting the innkeeper. Can participate in the investigation. Should you be told? Okay, if you unless you're a witness to the incident or involved in it, you should be able to participate. You should be fine. If and I put this up in another note to you when we talked. If it turns out you were involved in the crime or know somebody personally, call somebody else in. Have them send another investigator. If you're blessed, your city will have more than one. If not, then you call in up somebody else, basically. You don't want to get involved in something where you've got a personal friend and where a conflict of interest. Have somebody else do the call in the lead magistrate, call in the HOC, anybody but you. As a police officer, oh, the guy that originally taught these was a police officer. He witnessed crimes, followed the investigation, but he couldn't be a judge or a prosecutor. Some of it doesn't apply to Gore. He's also a magistrate for a lot of years. Fortunately for this is a Gore. Have a suspect that doesn't want to talk, torture him. Have a witness that doesn't want to cooperate, torture him. Huh. Nothing like taking somebody out of the wood shop or out of the deal, put him on a damn cross and bring in a torturer. That's real role play there. So remember, this is Gore. You'll see another statement. I don't remember if it's in this or another class where I say, doesn't want to show up for the trial, send the warriors. Have them beat them up and bring them in. My head Prater actually said that. I have a list of people in my city that run the jails and stuff. He said, just go down and ask him to go knock his head around and drag his ass in. If you don't want to show up, here's a list of the people you can call on to go basically drag them in and force them. Because it is Gore. We can do that stuff here. It makes the role play even more fun. And I'll be honest, the role play's been stale. When Shawnee came in, it was a hell of a lot more fun. Back in those days, people were put on pikes, arms cut off. I mean, they did the stuff they're supposed to do. I don't know what happened, but the world went politically correct. So the net result is some of the stuff you can actually do, people don't do anymore because they want to be nice. But this is Gore. Gore is nice in bed, but brutal outside of the bedroom. Well, 2000, I saw a statement that was interesting. It had to do with Second Life in general. It was simply that attendance in Second Life started down in 2010. And they said that starting in about 2015, no, excuse me, attendance peaked in Second Life in 2010. And then they said it started to go down in 2015. And what I noticed in terms of the scribes and the notes, there was, and I told Shawnee this, there was a whole lot of teaching going on right around 2015, 16, and 17. Some of our best notes come out of that time period. There were a load of scribes. They had been around a while, and they were really kicking butt back then. And the notes really started from about 2007 to 2010, and then you saw a real spurt. But basically, around 2015-16 is when the downtrend started. This is across Second Life, not in Gore. And it had to do with a number of factors. But Second Life decreased by at least a third in terms of numbers actually in Second Life. The net result was the pool of people who were in Gore went down. And so we had fewer people teaching, fewer people attending, and the quality, basically, people started regurgitating notes and not producing new stuff. Mm. But interesting enough, you are correct. In 2010, if you look at how people acted, the punishments and stuff, they were very Gore. Something happened between 2010 and 2015 where there was a shift and people started playing nice Gore. But the laws are still there. The laws have not changed, the people did. So the net result is the role play for trials, For instance, it's easy for somebody to have their arm cut off if they steal. The thing is, there's I'll show you next week, but there's a different expectation if you steal once, steal twice, and steal. But they should be missing body parts. You don't see anybody with missing body parts, and yet you have theft. And yet, in Second Life Gore, it's easy to cut off an arm. I mean, it's the way the AVs work. We can easily have a guy's arm removed. It used to be that if you were a liar, you could brand somebody with the liar's brand and it'd be right on his body. In fact, I need to look in Marketplace to see if that's still available, but there used to be a brand available with the words liar that would be put on the man. And it would be used as a by the book punishment. And I personally believe that that makes gore gore. And even though you have people go, well, you can't do that. Honestly, I know women that come into gore for that crap, and when they don't see it, they leave gore. Yeah, I know, and that's why I'm teaching it the way I am. I personally believe we need to do it the way it used to be do. Keep your interviews brief, stick to key questions, get their names, home, cash, ask where they came, what they saw, the who, what, when, where, why, how. The 5 W's within how. Did they hear anything? They know the victim. They have a legitimate reason to be there. We discussed that last week. Now, the real tricky part, if you have OCC knowledge, you must figure out a way to get the information. I see, Lee. Make it to the role play. No mega gaming on the case. Should find it easy. Find what you need. You're trying to find out. So essentially, that becomes tricky. I'm going to write down that we did this, but next week we're going to go over the laws. Let me see. Let me write this down. Once you finish your interviews and investigating, you need to start out and find out what's pertinent to your case. You don't want every person as a witness. You need to make a list. I told you create a note card. When you have a trial, okay, what you want to do is sort out, and there is a card called defense that I gave to you. And what you want to do, looking at that card, let me bring that up. On that card, it's called plan of defense. Now, you've got all your witnesses and statements. Now, if you're an advocate, you may be defending or you may be prosecuting, but you definitely want to interview everybody you can. In most cities, you're going to be an advocate simply because a lot of cities do that rule where the magistrates are all men, if they can get the men. Usually they end up making women because they can't get a man. Or in my city, the men are lame. But anyway, the point is, if you are the advocate, you want to sit down and make a plan of defense. And then what's going to happen is it says the defense litigators have to make an opening statement, which often includes a plead for mercy or charge. Nobody's going to plead for anyway. That's beside the point. So you're going to do an opening defense statement, and that's what you want to write out before you get to the trial. You're going to look at several things going into this. You're going to look at the laws, and I told you before there's 3 kinds of laws. If it applies, you want to look at cash law. If you definitely want to look at your city laws, and then we're going to look at the next week. We're going to look at the merchant laws, and then we're going to look at the civil laws, and that's what I've been working on for 2 weeks is putting a new format on the civil laws, which has taken forever. I'm almost done, but it's taken forever to get that done. The point of it is you want to look at all 3 of those city laws, the what's called the general laws of Gore, meaning that it's funny what what people quote out of there and what they choose to ignore. I was talking to Shawnee yesterday. I said, I don't get this. I said, the law that says that all slaves should kneel, or it's a capital offense. A capital offense is one that where they get killed. And there, I said, the one that says that is the same set of laws that says that if a if a free woman becomes a slave, all of her past crimes are done away with. Okay, so I've got this guy in my city who has a woman that screwed up. Yeah, there you go. You want to look at all those pertaining to your case. And I'm going to give you a way to do that. I'm going to give you an index. The woman screwed up. He went ahead and made her a slave, decided to mass mucin her right away so she's a free woman again. So basically, when she was a slave, the crime that she did goes away. Free woman, she's suddenly a free woman with no crimes. Now, the law that says that a free woman's, that a slave's past is done away with when she becomes a slave is the same freaking law that says that free women, I mean, that all slaves should kneel or can be killed. Now they pick and choose. I said it's interesting how a master will tell a slave she doesn't have to kneel, but turn around and give the free woman put her into slavery in order to get the past away. I said it's the same set of laws. They're picking and choosing which ones they want to enforce. Said, oh yeah, my free woman no longer has a past because I made her a slave and then gave her mass. But my slave, nah, slaves don't kneel. Bullshit. They're both in the same in the general laws of Gore. And so you'll find that people pick and choose. We're going to go through those laws and do a short tour, but it's one of my pet peeves because I've been going over those over and over and over. And that's one thing I noticed yesterday. Okay, there are no 10 days for contempt of court sentence here. If you refuse to cooperate, I can strip you of your wealth, collar it, I can banish you, I can stick a pike up your ass, or whatever else I feel like doing to you. This is Gore. Okay? There is no bullshit where a man comes in, refuses to answer, acts belligerent, cut off an arm, and go ahead and do the trial. So basically, this is like I said, don't do the pussyfoot thing. Have the warriors go get him, bring his ass in. If refused, put him on a goddamn cross. Yeah, he can appeal. And this is the way it used to be done. Like I said, they kind of got away from. All right, how to act in the courtroom. Then we're going to go through the trial itself. So I'm going to tell you something. Courtroom conduct. I'm going to give you a note card that shows you how the trial progresses. I already did, and how to handle the different parts of the trial. We're actually going to go through that. I'm going to assist you as well as the advocates during a Gorian trial. Remember, the active listening is needed all the way through the trial. People are terrible at active listening, but I have never lost a trial, and I've done 5. And I imagine I'm going to end up doing more. But basically, you have to be very, very careful. Remember, I told you to collect all the information, witness statements, who saw what, who did what, the complaints, put them up on a board and do a pre-trial statement of where you're going to go to. Think out how you want to proceed. Now, as the trial goes through, I'm going to have you do something I did. My brother is a lawyer. My son is a lawyer. I'm the only one that didn't become a lawyer. I did take law classes 3 times, business law. I studied 3 times in a couple of different colleges. The reason I bring that up is what I'm going to talk about is what we learned during debate. Most lawyers take debate. My brother did, won trophies. My son did, went to college on a debate scholarship. If you learn how to become a good debater, you'll do what I'm going to explain to you. And that's how you win trials. And that's why most lawyers took debate. Okay, so that's what we're going to go through. So remember, active listening is needed all through the trial. What is said by what is said by each party? How do you respond to the opposing counsel? Did the magistrate ask a question? What might that question show? Let's go through the conduct first, and then we'll go through the trial, and I'll explain this. Let's look at the conduct in the courtroom itself. Now, this is going to vary by city, and I'm going to say that because I was in a trial, which I still have the notes for, that was more like a kangaroo court because of the way they decided to handle it. But normally it's respect and politeness, firmness will get you a long ways. People look up to you. Um, Sometimes it doesn't quite work that way, but that's beside the point. You may have people yelling. I had a judge that drank all the way through the trial, was ordering liquor straight off the bar, sent a slave out so he could have some pega while he did the courtroom. So again, it may not quite be as respectable. Again, this is Gore. The judge said, give me a slave, go get me a pega. And then he got drunk all the way through the trial. So again, it depends. Now, If you are my most recent advocate class, you might get a bit of review. Magistrate, you're leading the role. So magistrate, you're leading the lead role in the courtroom. You'll often find you will be often directing the advocate as the next steps. That is, it depends on the experience of the advocate, okay? Or the litigator. If they've done it before, they know the procedures. And if they have the card I gave you, they'll know where to go to next. In some cases, no, you're going to have to direct them on what's going to happen next, what you expect. I had some people teach that there's a swearing of the witness. That's bullshit. That's earth court. There's no swearing on. Gorians believe in honor, and to lie is a dishonor. In fact, I told you this. There is a brand called the Liar's Brand. And if they lie, you can have it branded on them that they're a liar, that they have to wear around the city. So the swearing in the witness is great for court TV in real life, but it's not Gorian. I know who started that teaching, and it's just pure bullshit. Somebody lies, pull out a brand, have in the court, and just stamp it right on his fucking back, and that's pure gore. Honor is everything. If you're going to identify a liar in your courtroom, it is going to be an exception, and you can always brand them. Let me show you where the quote is for that, by the way. Nothing like having a brutal reason for doing this. There it is. Prize of Gore, book 27. There's the liar's brand. And that's why you don't have to have them swear the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Yeah, it is. Did I give you? No, I'll do that later. I'm going to give you a link to something that you can use, but we'll do that at the end of the class. Remind me. The Europeans are missing whole sections of the book, literally edited, took out sections. Whole people are missing. They aren't even mentioned in the European books. That's why Shawnee and I, well, mostly Shawnee, in my direction, went through and translated the Gorian books into French, German, Italian, because there are no complete German editions. They're just now starting to publish it, and I think they're only up to book 7. So we went through and literally translated all of them, the complete books, and make it possible for the Germans to read the actual books because they're missing people in it, whole lines, paragraphs. So it becomes problematic when you tell somebody it's in book whatever, and if they've got a European copy, the whole part of the chapter may be missing. Why that happened, I don't get it. But anyway, we did make possible in the library in this city. If you walk down the street, as soon as you walk to the door, to the left and then to the right, there are translations in other languages that are complete so that people can get the whole book and not work with part of a book in the European copies. So that's in the library here. By the way, even if it's not in book 27, I still brand his ass. That's why the whole thing about buy the book is a problem because if they're using international editions of the book, they're missing all kinds of stuff. So when they do, that's why the whole thing about buy the books is fucked up. The American editions are complete. It was like I said, the French, the Germans especially, Italy. There's missing large sections because remember, you're a magistrate. You can order pretty much anything you want. Now, I'm going to repost this. And as far as which ones are by the book and not, that's real tricky because we don't know at what point Norman stopped writing and ghostwriters started taking, whether it be a son or otherwise. I take notes. I'll bring this up again when we go through the trial. But basically, I did a debate style. Essentially, everything that the opposing counsel puts down, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to if you're at home, take a note card, put a T on it. On the right side, write what they're saying about your client. What's their evidence? This came in, this came in because of that here. On the left side, you want to write your rebuttal. What is it that you want to say in opposition to what they just said? Because for every point they make, you should have a counterpoint. Never ignore something. Make sure if they say this happened that you have a rebuttal. You're going to analyze that, and you're going to make darn sure when you do your closing statement that you go ahead and bring up you were told this, but really, and if you can help it, try and have evidence to rebut what they're going to. If you get real lucky, the person being accused will do an interview with you, especially if you're the prosecution. And you want to do the preliminary preparation, which you just talk about. Get your info together. Don't walk in not knowing where in the hell you're going with this. I spent 2 weeks collecting evidence on one trial, tracking people down. I interviewed the woman's sister. I interviewed her, tried to find the man who they accused of doing it, which proved to be a problem because he wasn't in the sim all the time. And I already told you about how to track people. I told you what tool to use to see when they're online. I gave you that in another class. Advocates, you're now going to call certain witnesses. They have to. Omit to call the witness stand in advance. Formulate some questions you might anticipate. That's why I gave you the defense card. You want to have on that card called defense the questions that you might want to ask based off of where you suspect it's going to. In essence, this is not a brain. I personally think the best role play is being the advocate, not the magistrate. People want to be the magistrate. You know why? Yeah, there you go. It's a power deal. The funny thing is, the real fun part is the advocate or the because all the magistrate does is sit up there, he listens and makes a judgment, and he does get to walk along and look important. The advocate or the litigator has more fun. They're the ones doing the interviewing, preparing the arguments, in some cases going to the jail and saying, we got to let this person out. A lot more fun. It's not in the magistrate. Magistrates gets a one-shot deal. The other problem is the magistrates in many cases assigns the advocates. We've got a guy right now in my city who is not using the advocates. He's going in doing his own interviewing, everything, ignoring the advocates. Yeah, I think like I said, in my city, the women become advocates, and the only problem we're running into is that the magistrates are not letting them in on the role play. Only ask questions that lead to what you're trying to show your line of argument. That is, please don't throw out a freaking question that points back to your client. You want to guide the argument. The idea is you're going to guide it. If you know little, then more questions. If you know a lot, then guide it to where you want to go. I was in a trial with I actually had the HOC with me, and the person leading the trial was a third party. And I was listening to the arguments, and we were in conference chat. And I told the HOC, I said, if she says this one line, here's how I'm going to approach it. I said, if she doesn't say it, then she missed a key point, and here's how I'm going to do it. Because what I was looking for is some words out of her mouth or lack of words, because it would reveal to me whether she caught the main point of the thing. And sure enough, she didn't say it. And I said, okay, now I know how we're going to attack this because she missed the whole point of what was going on. And I won that trial. But the point was, I was tracking what she said and I was leading the conversation in a certain direction. And I needed to see if she picked up on what I was doing or not. Sure enough, she made the mistake of not saying it. And I told the guy, the HOC said, now I know, here's how we're going to approach this because of what she didn't say. It let me know that she missed the main point. Hence, the longer time frame set for a trial, 2 hours at a minimum. If you are going to do longer than 2 hour trial, call a recess. Everybody come back an hour later. Now, here's where it becomes really, really important. Um, if you are the magistrate or if you're an advocate, make sure that the magistrate knows the time that you're going to be on and the people you're defending are going to be on. Ideally, they're not going to set this damn trial when nobody can be there or your client can't be there. They need to set it on a day. And if it turns out this person only comes in on a weekend, which is possible, Shawnee and I talk about this a lot. There are people who use their work computers. They can't always come in on the weekends. Some people only come in on the weekends. Their job shut the computer down. They're locked up all week. They get home, they can come in and do their thing. If it's a weekend thing only, you might want to hold the trial in one day. And if